Portal is a game that I know quite a bit about. I've played pretty much every fan mod for the game that I've come across. Several were amazing, some were pretty good, a few were just okay, a couple were bad, and one specifically was sinfully bad. When I heard about another mod for Portal, I knew this was the big one. This is my first impressions of Portal with RTX. I'm Dark Lord Elliot. First, before talking about anything else, I've played around with Portal with RTX for around 2 weeks on and off. I've shown it to my brother and a couple friends, and we all agree that it looks fantastic, especially when compared to the original Portal, which really doesn't have any dynamic lighting at all. That said, Portal was always both perfection and a train wreck at the same time, so having essentially nothing to say about the engine is actually the best possible scenario for Portal's game engine and mechanics. Art style, though, is where Portal and Portal with RTX take a sharp divergence. As the name states, this version has RTX, that being Ray Tracing Texel Extreme. But that's not all. Portal with RTX also has upgraded textures for walls, cubes, cameras, and the turrets. Strangely, the companion cube seems to be the original version, making it a huge contrast, or perhaps a look into the past. What ray tracing brought into Portal is that now you can see how the lights actually interact with everything. This is using a new version of ray tracing known as RTX Remix, which is, at the time of making this video, one of the most graphically intensive versions of real-time ray tracing there is. That makes Portal the most graphically demanding game I own, which is something I never thought I could say. We can see this in action when looking at basically the same thing, original versus RTX. The original has some basic lighting, which was par for the course back in 06, but obviously can't compare with this newfangled RTX. There's some glitches in Portal with RTX specifically to do with RTX. That's to be expected since this is the first game that has this form of ray tracing. And considering Portal with RTX is only a month old, complaining about it doesn't serve much of a point as it's bound to get better. So I'll just show you some of the things I noticed. While playing, you'll see things through glass, but actually no you won't, because the glass is harshly distorted. Also, to do with the glass, sometimes the glass will only reflect some of the reflection. Solid objects like the floor seem to be discarded, whereas light effects are reflected just about correctly. Also, this combine texture, not actually used in Portal, but is used in some mods, is really hard to see through. I don't know how this could have been done either. This isn't something that should have been messed with when developing Portal with RTX. Let's play devil's advocate for a second. Portal. Why? Seems kind of a waste, doesn't it? I mean, we have Portal, which is by far one of the best games ever made according to some, but it's really not that long. 12 easy chambers, then 7 fairly harder ones, the escape sequence and a boss battle, and then you're done with the game. What more is there? Now, I get that the point was to remix something that wasn't too long or hard, but I'm going somewhere with this. I certainly asked myself that, so I started looking for maps to add into Portal with RTX. I was not disappointed with the amount of detail I saw in the base game. It seemed to come to life on my monitor right before my eyes. However, this just isn't meant to be for some mods, and all the ones I was able to get working were just map packs or single maps. I still have yet to see the likes of any Portal source mod that changes textures or adds in any real new gameplay elements. The ones I tried and was able to get working are Portal, the Flash version, but not map 4, Portal Z 2020 Slice, which is heavily based on Portal Flash, Portal Still Alive, which is Portal Flash but as single maps instead of a big one, Gear Portal Map Pack, Portal APS-C. It works, but it has some glitches with these goo things. The other ones I tried and failed to get working are Red Trees, a single map, City 23, a single map, MTM Portal Story, a map pack, or any Portal source mod. Specifically, I tried Blue Portals, Portal Unity, Shell's Legend, and Head's Chase Nailway. By no means a comprehensive list, but certainly does highlight that Portal with RTX is not very compatible with Portal mods. I spoke to Zia Miyaro, who made Portal Z 2020, and he theorized that since Portal RTX is based off the DirectX 8.0 version of Portal, that's probably what's causing most of the issues. I don't know, and I really don't know that much about hardware renderers either. What I do know is that Portal with RTX is about a month old at this point and doesn't seem to like being modded, which is ironic considering it is a mod. My personal experience would be best described as frustrating. Portal with RTX is a beauty to look at, well, most of the time, but it's a pain to get set up beyond the main game. Not to mention, but I have to run the game in 1440p 60 because 2160p only gets me around 24 frames a second, but even that's not stable. I have an RTX 3080, and I mean, don't get me wrong here, I'm not trying to say that because I have the flagship RTX card that I should have everything in 4K 240 with or without whatever, and nothing should affect my frames. Nothing of the sort. I'm merely stating that other RTX games seem to be substantially more optimized than Portal. As it stands, if you don't have an RTX card and wanted to get one just to play this game, don't. Just watch a 4K or 1440p playthrough online. Portal with RTX isn't quite ready yet. What's even worse, Portal with RTX crashes a lot. If you try Alt-Tab out of the game, that's a definite crash. If you want to load certain maps, it won't even give you an error, just crash. Though others work fine. Seems to be random. Suppose you want to just play the game. Well, at certain times the game will start stuttering and may or may not completely unload on you. If this happens, it's almost certainly going to crash. The number of actual crashes I've had in Portal Original, not caused by me doing risky stuff, is about the same as Portal with RTX, but that's over 16 years of playing the original game on and off. Real-time ray tracing is a great technology, but it's still in very early days, a term which here means probably not ready for at least another 5 or more years. I'm certainly not saying that Portal with RTX is a waste, more that it needs work. I'll be glad to revisit this topic later on once the game is better optimized. But for now, this is where our journey ends. Dark Lord Elliot, we're done here.